Hello, my name is Gina Range from the Range Clinic in Kenilworth, and in this video we're going to take a look at foot strike and the correct way for your foot to hit the ground when you're running. So this is our foot and it is the most amazing structure. If you take a look at the foot, it's got all these bones, it's got all these joints, it's got all these ligaments, and it's got loads of muscles around it. And this is all to provide support, to provide an arch, and to allow force dissipation. And this is what we're really interested in our running. So many people will run in the following way. They will hit with their heel, flatten off, and then toe off. Now, this is absolutely fine when you're walking, but it's not ideal when you run. So what we're going to talk about today is how to change that stride so it's more efficient and less likely to cause you injuries. So when we walk, we would absolutely heel to toe. The body's designed to do that. It's how it should work, and we absolutely want to heel to toe when we're walking. But when we run, there are much larger forces working, and this is where we don't want to be heel to toeing. And there's a simple reason for that, and that's because of this bone. So this is your calcaneus, a big heel bone. A bursa sits underneath it to protect it from the muscles that run around. Okay, we don't want muscle rubbing on bone. It will create damage to the muscle, so we put a bursa in there to protect it. But now you come along and run, and when we run we put a lot of force through our bodies. In fact, we can put up to 5 times our body weight through our bodies, and that is a lot of weight. So when you hit on the floor, we can irritate that bursa and get bursitis, which is an absolute nightmare. It takes a really long time to fix. So if we hit with the heel, we've got to dissipate that force. It's got to go somewhere. And that's a real problem, because if you look closely, you will see there are not very many joints with which to dissipate the force. And this is how the body dissipates force: through the body, through joints, through muscles, through tendons. So if I hit with this calcaneus, I've really only got 1, 2, 3 joints with which to dissipate force. And after that, it has to leave the foot in order to dissipate force. So it runs up through the 2 bones at the front of your leg. And these move relative on another in order to dissipate force. And from there, you can get things called shin splints, which you may have had, you may have heard of, and they're not very nice. But that's forces, that's the tugging of the muscle as the bone moves, creates inflammation and upsets it. So we don't want that. However, even if we take this bone out of the equation, we've only got to 4 joints. And now we're going to go up into our knee, and we can get all sorts of problems in our knee. We can get all sorts of problems in our hip. And in fact, the forces will run right up through the spine. So this is where the foot comes in very cleverly. It is not for no reason that we have all these bones. They're there to move, to flex, and to dissipate force. So when we land, what we ideally want to do is land mid-foot. Now, don't get that confused with forefoot running on your toes. That's not designed for everyday running. That's designed for sprinting. Very short periods of time, generating a lot of forward force, a lot of forward momentum. What we want to do is land with our heel and the ball of our foot at the same time. And what this does is uses the arch to dissipate force. So it's really important that you have an arch in your foot if you are a runner. So what we want to do is, as we hit the floor, the arch will flatten, and that's what we call pronation. Okay, so you may have heard of pronation, you may overpronate, lots of people do. You may underpronate, and there's all sorts of reasons why you do that are too in-depth for this video. But fundamentally, what we want to do is land for our heel and our ball of our foot at the same time. So it's not that the heel doesn't touch, it does touch. It's not that it all's on the toe, it's not, it's mid-foot. That allows the arch of the foot to flatten. It allows the bones, and there's loads of them, there's about 12 joints in this section that will help you dissipate forces when you're running. There's also lots of information I could go into, but I don't want to make this video too long, on forces. So we have something called Newton's third law. For every action, there is an opposite and equal reaction. So if I hit the floor like this, going in this direction with 1 kilogram of force, the ground will give me 1 kilogram of force coming backwards, opposite and equal. If I hit the floor this way, that force is coming straight down. which means the opposite force is coming straight up. That force helps to move you forward, momentum moves you on. If I've got my heel, in order to heel strike, my foot has to be ahead of my body. So if my foot is in front of my body, then the force coming back technically is a deceleration force, which I have to overcome to get to a midfoot strike, where Newton's third law is now working for me, and finally a toe off. So we don't want to do that. So my challenge for you this week is to have a go at a midfoot strike when you run. You don't need clever shoes for this, you don't need to do anything. It is simpler in a simple pair of shoes. If you run in a barefoot shoe, that's perfect. If you have a shoe that doesn't have a huge amount of cushioning, that is also perfect. But it is possible to do this in any shoe. So what I want you to do is to not allow your leg to come in front of your body when you are running. What I want you to do is try and keep that leg aligned with your hip. So you're literally running like that. That means your cadence has to increase. You have to turn those legs over much faster. But if you, in the corner of your eye, can see your foot in front of you, then the chances are you are heel striking. And we want a midfoot strike where the foot should land much more underneath you. So that's your task for the week. Have a go. See how it feels. If you're really struggling with it, have a go with no shoes on in the garden. See how that feels. You'll probably find it much easier to do because we are designed to run without shoes. Ultimately, we didn't have them originally, obviously. We just had a foot. And what's happened is that because we heel strike, the manufacturers have built up the cushioning at the back to protect against this force that I'm talking about. And as a result, we're more likely to heel strike because the shoe has an angle on it, and that shoe encourages the heel strike. So if you have a low drop shoe, or you have a lower angled shoe, or you have a minimalistic shoe, it's far easier to midfoot strike than if you have a really highly cushioned shoe, or if you have a high drop arch shoe. So give it a go and let us know how you get on. If you need any help with this, obviously give us a call. We do running analysis. That's what we excel at. So give us a buzz and book on in. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye-bye.